Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Animation Appreciation Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana Stargazer, and today we'll be covering Disney's Inside Out. Let's get started. This movie has great character design, from the way the humans and emotions look to the way they move. Everyone moves differently. There is a shimmer effect to the hair and skin of the emotions, caused by them being made of particles. The fact their bodies are, but their clothes is not, is a lovely touch, as it means they're actually wearing those clothes. The way they move is representative of their emotion. Anger is solid and stompy, while fear is fluid and noodle army. Disgust keeps herself carefully composed and walking precisely. There is Sadness, who has always got her arms tucked in, her hands together, and shuffles around, while Joy is loud and rambunctious with her emotions. Each emotion does have a particle effect that will follow them around. It is most noticeable on Joy, as she is glowing. We see Chef Colette from Ratatouille on the cover of a magazine while Riley is playing The Floor is Lava. The music from The Nightmare is the same that's used on the Haunted Mansion ride in Disney. In Dream Productions, we can see an actor portraying Zurg. There's also a Mickey Mouse actor there. Let me just take a quick moment to mention that Joy is the only character who is dichromatic, meaning she has two colors. She's got blue hair and eyes and yellow skin. Everyone else is monochromatic, meaning only one color, because you cannot have joy without understanding sadness. Also, take a quick moment at any shot where we're looking at Sadness. Her sweater has random little fuzzies. That is exactly how sweaters in real life work, but when you go to make a 3D model, you have to sit there and program every fuzzy or tell the computer an algorithm for the fuzzies. Somebody sat down and made realistic fuzzies on her and the mother's sweater. Also using the narrative to explain why seemingly bad emotions like disgust and fear have an evolutionary purpose. For kids, is a good thing, so they don't just, assume they're a negative emotion. Her old house was bright with a lawn, vibrant colors, and lots of sun. The first shot we see of her new house is an old, cramped alley with low lighting, perfect for setting up her disappointment and ours. That way the audience feels the same emotions as Riley. That's called immersion. Also, to help with the contrast, her bright rainbow shirt is in beautiful contrast to her new and old life. Also shows her optimism getting out of the car. The dead mouse in the house is gray and is implied to be Remy from Ratatouille. Well, not him precisely, but a rat like him. The way this movie depicts depression as a lack of interest in what we once loved, as well as a lack of joy, and how without sadness we can't process and let go of the past and move on into the future. And so we're just kind of stuck in this little state. That is a very good representation of depression. I'd also like to point out when depression fully sets in, her control panel stops working. The inability to feel anything. That is a better representation than just, oh, depression is sadness. No, it is an inability to feel anything. And you feel like you'll never feel anything again. The moment the panel starts going gray, Riley loses her color. Once it is repaired, her color comes back. You can actually see it mostly in her face. Also, the lighting in the ambient area, the lighting is darker as the panel turns off, but once it comes on, the sun comes out. Sadness is needed to slow down and feel your emotions so that you can mourn what's lost and move forwards. That little path they take through abstract thought, just so you know, that is actually a shortcut to understanding. But once you understand abstract thought completely, that is when you lose your childhood. That is according to our internet dads at Cinema Therapy. Also, they are broken down into increasingly more simplified models while still making it clear who is who. That is actually a very difficult thing to do, but something they often teach in art schools is instead of trying to draw a person, Draw the shapes that make up the person, and then add the details and refine the shapes. And sometimes they tell us you can only use circles, triangles, and squares, and rectangles. That was a fun day at class, actually. Joy sees herself as the goal for Riley to be happy, so she sees sadness as the opposite of a good thing. With Bing Bong and sadness versus how Joy was dealing with him when he was sad, we see the importance of stopping, letting out your feelings, so life can continue instead of becoming stagnant. I actually also enjoy the fact that there's just a section for abstract thought, subconscious thinking, and long-term storage. These might be simple design choices in Riley's mind, but it is also a very effective way of showing the mind's workings, even if the mind is much more complicated than that. To me, the best part of the clown is that he's not evil. He's just a clown who wants to be part of a party, and that is also somehow very terrifying. Not just the lighting, but it seems as though, clowns are just terrifying. But I do love that he's not evil. He just wants to be part of the party and make kids smile. Also, the deja vu joke. Very simple, yet it always makes me smile. Doesn't make me laugh, but it makes me smile. On the banister, when she's looking at her mom's purse, you can see that the banister itself is scratched and has some wear and tear on it. Yes, that happens in real houses, but when you actually model something, it comes out bland, and you might get it perfect, but you can't just leave it there and it'll wear and tear. So somebody had to sit there and put every scratch, or find an algorithm to put every scratch and imperfection in the wood. The simple idea that an overall happy memory was rewound and it was originally sad, showing how tight joy and sadness are tied together. You can't feel fully happy without understanding the sadness. Also, the moment at the bottom of the gorge when joy is trapped. Depression makes you feel like you will never be happy again. So I feel like Riley was having one of those moments. You can see Joy's glow through the rocks when she looks down at Bing Bong. All the emotions glow to a varying degree. You can see it like in their hair and their face. You can see just a really faint glow there. With Joy, it is extremely obvious. Also, Riley's wardrobe when she went from upset, or when she went too upset, went from bright to all black. Not saying everyone who wears black is depressed, but if they typically wear bright colors, you might want to make sure they're all right. Then you get people like me who wear everything, mostly black though. When sadness takes the idea from Riley, the lighting picks back up and brightens her face so it has more color. That's the sun coming out between the clouds I talked about earlier. When there's a big change, you lose something you once had. The happy memories turn sad and become bittersweet. And there is joy after letting go and mourning. Also, we have our A113, graffitied on a wall in the San Fran on her way to the bus stop. For those of you who don't know, A113 is the classroom that a lot of Disney animators went through. I'm in a completely different state, so I did not go through that classroom. But apparently it's from a classroom in California that every Disney animator went through, so they pay homage to it by putting it in, as far as I can tell, every movie. In a flashback with Bing Bong, we see the Pixar ball. It was in the moment when Bing Bong was on the ceiling. In the video chat with her friend, you can actually see a list of her friends off to the left. One of them is Doc Pete and Ronify. Pete Doctor is actually a director, and Ronify, if I'm not mistaken, was a reference to Ronnie, which is another director. Those are both directors for this movie. By the train, we see a portrait of Figment the dragon. This is a reference to Disneyland itself, as it was an mascot for a certain part of Disneyland. I've forgotten which part now. In Dreamland, they have a Mickey Mouse actor. By the way, the one I was referring to is in the same shot as the Zurg. He's just sitting there drinking coffee, doing nothing. Also, when Riley is on the move to San Francisco, we see the birds from the Pixar short For the Birds are back on the power lines without their large friend. As they arrive in San Francisco, there's 2 cars parked with tickets on one side. On the other side, one of the cars has a boot. In case you don't know what a car boot is, it is a piece they put on the hubcaps of the car on the outside and locks through the tire on the other side, so the car is incapable of moving. If you move your car with a car boot on it, you will destroy your car. The only way to get it off is to pay the fine and have it removed by the, I think, police? I don't know. I've never had my car booted. They do it when you park in the wrong spot. Why they lock you in that spot, I don't know. In Imagination Land, her father is the king on her cards, and her mother is the queen. We also have Riley as the Jack, with an R instead of a J. Also, on the back of the cards is an R for Riley. Still in Imagination Land, on the same shot as we see the cards, is a board game called Find Me, and it does have a clownfish on it. It's a reference to Finding Nemo. When we view inside the teenage boy's head, when Riley talks to him, is the funniest thing to me, the sheer chaos. Also, really quick note that the bus driver, inside his head, all of his emotions are basically anger. So no matter what emotion he has, it's also anger. Every time my cat does something random, I ask him who jumped on the control panel, because once we see in the cat's minds, that is a very good example of why cats would be random. Also, same shot as the cat, we see the locksmith called Shore Locks for Holmes. Back when this movie first came out, there was a rumor saying that some therapists began carrying inside-out dolls to help their patients of all ages identify which emotion is at the controls. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about the core theme of this movie, which is toxic positivity. Joy is not a bad thing. Being happy most of the time is not a bad thing. But if you're not happy, stop trying to force yourself to be happy. Let your sadness run its course. I'm not saying give in to your sad thoughts. I'm saying let yourself cry. Let yourself mourn what was lost. And let yourself move forward. Always remember also, don't listen to any depressive thoughts. I've lost friends to depression. So, if you need help, reach out. Don't be like Riley and think that you're going to be a burden and need to deal with it on your own. You're not. Talk to someone. It is physically impossible for someone to be happy all the time. I am considered a happy person, and every single person at my work has seen me having my days where I don't feel anything or I'm just sad. And it's okay. Because I know that they don't last forever, and I'll be happy again. Additional sources for this episode include Cinema Therapy on YouTube. Thanks, Internet Dads. I always love watching them react to things. So if you haven't given them a chance, go take a look at Cinema Therapy on YouTube and watch Therapist Reacts Inside Out for more details on some of the psychological themes I discussed here. That's all I have for Inside Out. Thank you everyone for listening, and always remember, if you're having a bad time, somebody there cares. Reach out and don't do it alone. Also, if it's animated, somebody did it on purpose. Have a good night, folks.